I'm a Real Life Trucker is a podcast series presented by appsfortruckers.com in association with livetrucking.com. We interview professional drivers about their lives, their jobs, and various views about the industry. Interviews use first names only and no company names so that drivers can feel open about their history and views. This is Tim Spence with Apps for Truckers, and you're listening to
I'm a Real Life Trucker.
episode number 2.
I'm John. I'm 27. I'm from Walton, New York. I do flatbed driving over the road all over the U.S. and Canada.
While I'm usually able to catch drivers while they're rolling down the road or maybe even at home taking some time off, John is in the middle of loading his trailer, so we'll have a little bit of background noise, sounds like. So, John, tell me something about your childhood, how you were raised.
My father was a truck driver, raised in a Christian family. We were taught to work hard, taught to make your money on your own. Normal kid, I guess, lived out in the middle of nowhere, rode four-wheelers, hunted, fished, all that. You had to pull your own weight. We were raised in a family business. Both my mother and my father are self-employed. So ended up helping them out most of the time. It's a little bit like being raised on a farm, except wasn't a farm. Had to help fix trucks on the weekends, learned all about fixing them, changing tires. Sometimes you get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning, go change a tire out on Long Island or something. It was just part of what was expected of you.
What about your family? Brothers, sisters?
I have two sisters. They both helped out with the family business when they were younger. They went on to college. One's a doctor. The other one has a degree in international business. That was a normal childhood, I guess. And we all got along.
So, growing up in a family business, you did pretty well for yourself? You think the family did pretty well?
Heck, I don't know. Oh, we weren't rich, but, we did all right. Nobody ever really lacked for anything, but, we had hand-me-down clothes and all that. So, just seemed normal to us. Nobody ever really thought we were going without.
So trucks being in your family, you were pretty comfortable around them, I guess. So what happened the first time you got behind the wheel of a truck?
Well, first time I ever got behind the wheel, I was just old enough to reach the pedals. I was probably 10 or 12, somewhere in that area, and just pulling the truck ahead. And one day he was talking to somebody else. We had it in the yard there, private property and everything, and he told me to back it in the garage. About 6 hours later, I had it in there. It was a learning experience for me.
So did you work for the family to begin with, or did you get a job outside of the family business to start?
When I first I worked for a food company earlier on. I went through a driving school. It was scary for me a little bit. It was trucks I wasn't used to driving with. It was little day cabs. Felt a little bit like a minivan to me. Yep. So
your family life now, are you married? Do you have kids? Are you single? Tell me about that.
Just family right at the moment. When I started over the road, I pretty much told my girlfriend goodbye. I was like, this probably isn't going to work for a while because I'm going to have to be gone. So pretty much ended that relationship. Yep.
So I guess you could say you had the presence of mind to know that that long-distance relationship stuff was not going to work for the two of you.
Yep.
Well, I know you're an owner-operator. Are you leased on with a company, or do you have your own authority?
I'm leased on with a carrier.
So tell me about your feelings about being single and on the road, about the lifestyle out there.
It's pretty much the only way to go unless you're going to be home every weekend, which I can't really do. I don't know how anybody keeps a relationship together when they're gone for a month at a time.
Well, we know that there are married drivers out there. How do you figure that they are able to keep their relationships together?
It depends on the age group, I think. You have all different backgrounds out there. You're running the entire spectrum. You have guys who are 100%, family men that like to be home all the time, get home every weekend, go to all the baseball games and that, but I don't know how to make any money and do that. It depends a lot on where you live too. But
John, I appreciate you taking the time to tell me about your family history and about your upbringing. So let's switch over to the industry. Um, Tell me something about how you feel the public's perception of truck drivers is.
As far as the image goes, I don't think we have a very good image out there. One of the last things I tell somebody is that I'm a truck driver, just because I know what kind of image we already have.
So why do you think that it's negative?
Well, the first thing that pops into some 20-something-year-old girl's mind when you say truck driver is, some guy with a long beard who hasn't showered in a week or whatever. That's not necessarily representative of the industry, but that is, I think, the first thing that pops in their mind.
So do you think the media has something to do with it? Do you think that they are portraying us as bad people or just people that are undesirable? How do you feel that the media has shown us?
I think it's horrible, and sometimes it's rightfully so. But I think the media has, every movie gives us a bad image. The truck driver's always the serial killer or something. I mean, I've gotten out to help at accident scenes and people want to keep me away. Like I'm, there to hurt somebody. I was in the Marine Corps for 6 years. I kind of know how to help people a little bit, But I think the public image out there has done a lot of damage.
So you mentioned you were in the Marine Corps. Thank you for your service, of course. We appreciate all the sacrifices that you made so that we can have freedom in the United States. We appreciate that beyond belief. So tell me a little bit about your military background as well.
I was a flight mechanic in the Marine Corps, so I traveled a lot. I was gone for months at a time. Went everywhere, learned how to work on aircraft, which prepared me a lot for this. Learned all about, being away from home, what it's like, the stresses it causes. It was a good thing overall.
So it sounds like the Marine Corps was actually a good thing for you to transition to being an owner-operator.
Well, since I own my truck, it saves me a lot of money if I can do my own work, which I don't do major engine work, but things like changing tires, wheel seals, stuff like that, I'll do that no problem. And things go wrong all the time, it's part of owning one.
So if you were to name a number one problem in the trucking industry now, what would you say that is?
I believe the number one problem in trucking today is the regulation. I really think it's a lack of knowledge on the government's part when they're coming up with these new regulations. I don't know what groups they interview, but they're the wrong ones.
Okay, well, be a little more specific for me. What do you think is the main issue here with regulations? Are we talking about electronic logs?
You either can't have everybody on electronic logs with the hours of service the way they are. You have to allow some leeway. Part of the problem with the public's perception of the trucking industry is guys driving like you, which I see all the time, and I get it, and I've been there. But the problem is they're routed right for the last second of their day, and they don't have time to do anything else. They have to get through traffic. They have to bob and weave, or they're not going to get home or get done, or they might lose out on thousands of dollars because they showed up 20 minutes late. You have to allow leeway. If there was, say, 4 hours in a given week that you could add in anywhere, I think it would solve a lot of that, which you're already allowed the 16-hour rule, but it doesn't really apply to anybody driving the road. If you were allowed 4 hours of leeway per week, it would solve half the problems, I think. Nobody is going to die driving over their hours a little bit. It's safer, and I think 99% of the case.
John, you're starting to fade out on me there. Check your headset.
No, hang on 1 second. Let me switch it. Yep, just 1 second. Is that better?
Yeah, I think that's better.
Okay.
Another question that comes to mind is the training of new drivers. How do you feel about how we're training our drivers these days?
There's no national standard on training drivers right now, as far as I'm aware. You can get your CDL just by going through some truck driving school, pass the test, and they can send you out on the road in, 70-foot long truck. That's ridiculous. You have to have some sort of minimal training with an actual driver trainer, which I don't know what the standards for that would be, but they're not clearly specified now. You have larger companies now that are putting people out as trainers with 13 weeks experience. That's insane. What do you learn in 13 weeks? Nothing. You learn some, but not enough to pass your knowledge on to somebody who doesn't know anything. We all have to start somewhere. I understand that, but it's dangerous to send people out on their own with a CDL and no experience.
What about the future of the industry? Do you see it as good or bad? Tell me about that.
I really think the future is going to be more heavy regulations that are misguided. And that's unfortunate, but I think that's the direction it's going to go in. People are still going to have to move goods. There's going to be more trucks on the road. And with more trucks, you have less trained drivers who have a bad record already, but companies will just accept it because we need somebody to move our stuff. I think that will cause worse drivers out there, which will lead to more regulation, misguided or not. And it's just going to get tougher and tougher and tougher. The speed limiter law that came out, they haven't said what it's going to be yet. I think it's going to be 62 miles an hour personally, which will further damage the public image because we'll have trucks racing down the road at 62 miles an hour side by side. Everyone is going to hate the truck drivers.
So if you had the ear of the trucking industry right now, what would you say to them?
You need to listen to what the older drivers are telling you. Not what the unions say, not what the companies say. Listen to the older drivers, the ones who've been doing it for 30 years. See what they want to do, because their experience is already there. They've already been there, done that. They've seen the good days of it, and they've seen what is happening to the industry now.
Yep, take a listen to experience.
That's absolutely.
So as a professional driver, what do you do to improve yourself?
I think I improve myself while I'm driving by always thinking, what if? I always try to I hope for the best, but always expect the worst. Whenever somebody pulls out in front of me, what's the worst thing they could do right now? And I try to plan ahead for that.
Well, outside of trucking, what do you like to do?
I love guns. I love four-wheelers. I love hiking. I love mountain climbing.
You mentioned that you drive the U.S. and Canada. What are some of your favorite places to go?
My favorite places to travel to, even though they don't pay a lot, would be out west, would be Colorado, just because of the scenery. There's not as many people out there. Driving's a little bit less stressful unless you're in Denver. Utah, I like. It's wide open. It's just a nice change in scenery. One
final question, John. I believe that everyone wants to be able to leave a legacy behind. So what would that be? I mean, when it's your time to leave the earth, how do you want to be remembered?
Well, I'll tell you, I want to feel like I lived a full life. I think I'll be happy as long as I believe one day I'll stand before my Creator, and as long as I can give an account and not be completely ashamed of everything I've done, we'll consider that a victory. I just do my job, I don't necessarily try to leave a standing impression with anyone. If someone's having a bad day, I try not to make it any worse. If anything, I try to make it a little better. I generally don't react when people cut me off or when someone's being rude or something like that. It's just let it go. Just be nice. Try to improve everyone's day. That's all I'm really looking for out of it. I want the experiences. I don't want anybody to feel like they have a solid case for saying anything about me. Might be not so great. We all make mistakes in that, but as long as I can feel good about what I've done and have lived a full life, did everything I could do, I'll feel pretty good about it.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of Real Life Trucker. If you would like to be interviewed for this podcast series, you can get in touch with us in one of two ways. The first is go to the website and fill out the online form. Once you hit submit, it will come directly to us. The other way is, of course, to hit our voicemail line at 615-669-9478 and leave us a message there as to when the best time to contact you is. Until then, be safe, and we will see you on the next podcast.